So we're going to begin today lying down on the back, however you want to. You really can do whatever feels nice with your hips. You can do feet together, knees apart. You can do feet apart, knees together. You can stretch your legs long like Shavasana, whatever you want. Rest the hands on the belly. Have a deep breath in, as deep as you'd like. And when you exhale, allow your eyes to drift shut. If they were shut, let them relax. And notice what comes up. Notice your state of mind. And give yourself permission to not stop anything. Because this class is going to be driven by the intention to kind of not be driven for just a few minutes, for just a small chunk of your day. Notice if the impulse to move into the next thing is there. Notice when you get to the feeling of wanting. When you get to the feeling of satisfaction or real happiness, like you don't want to leave where you are, really pay attention to the shifts. There's a pattern where there's a response in the body. We feel things, and sometimes it's hardly even conscious. We make a decision, that's hardly even conscious too. Probably not conscious. And then we start explaining things to ourselves. That happens, coincides with taking action, or it precedes taking action. So again, something happens with our chemistry. We feel something, we tell a story about it, we decide what to do. So the thing that we're noticing the most is the story we're telling. And then right behind that, it's what we feel. And the vast majority of what's going on, we're not conscious of. Probably wouldn't want to be. So notice, and you can vacillate between the two. Notice the story you tell and the sensations you feel. You might notice now what is louder, what grabs your attention most easily. Is it what you're saying or what sensations are coming up? And if you ever at any point for this whole practice, you need to move to feel more comfortable, go ahead. And if at any point you find you're telling yourself a story that you perhaps would like to edit, to kind of see another side of, feel free. But note that there might be times when that's much easier said than done, when your convictions are so strong that it might take some time to see things in a different way, to see things in a way more conducive to your well-being, that help you let go of a stress response, for example. And when that happens, when it becomes not so useful to edit the story, go into what you feel. Become grounded in the sensations of the body, in your aliveness, in your breath. So let's go to the breath now, or soon. Remember, you can always go into the story if you need to, observing, seeing things differently, so you feel free to flip it around anytime you want. You can go into the sensations you feel elsewhere in the body anytime you need to, moving your focus around. But very simply, let's put the attention on the feeling of the breath. We'll do that a lot. So the feeling of the inhales and the exhales. The feelings you produce when you intentionally slow the breath down. Maybe you start Ujjayi breath, closing off the back of the throat slightly until the breath becomes a whisper. And then keep going to your breath, but reach your arms alongside your face and point your feet and your fingers kind of away from each other. You can fan out your fingers and toes. You might yawn, let whatever parts of your back that want to lift off the floor lift off. And then maybe it's on an exhale that you bring your arms back down. Let's bring the feet in. We're going to shift the hips over to one side and let the knees drift over to the other. So if you'd like to, you can take your top leg and straighten it some. You could even straighten your bottom leg. But feel free, if it feels better, to have that bottom leg support and kind of cushion the top leg by sliding it back underneath it. You can get, by finagling around, as much of your upper back on the floor as you want. You can turn your face in the opposite direction of the knees. And we're going to take 6 breaths here, more or less. But that gives you a sort of endpoint, a sort of finish line. And again, notice how your attention vacillates first between when I interrupt you, right? I'm telling you a story too. But notice when it goes from that to your story, to what you feel in the body, to your breath, how it kind of ping pongs around these places. And you use your breath like a hand you hold, a thing you can go back to every time. Slowly, slowly, slowly inhaling and exhaling. And take more time if you need it. Whenever you're ready, you're going to switch the direction of the twist, shifting your hips over to the other side, setting your legs in a similar manner if you can. You can always switch the sides if what you did on side 1 doesn't suit side 2. You can always change it a little. Back to the breath. And then let's take your time. Come on back to center. Bring the knees in towards the belly. And then from there, make gentle circles with your knees, maybe a few in one direction. They don't have to be really big. So don't make them so big that you feel like you're going to fall over to the side, and you don't have to keep your knees together. And then a few in the other direction. Any spot that feels really good, hold it. And then when you're ready, keep your knees to center and cross one ankle on top of the other. Bring your arms out to your sides, and then bring them by your sides. So arms alongside your body, like you would if you were going into Shavasana. Now you're going to take your left hand and reach for the foot closest to it. And then you're going to do the same with your right hand. Pull on your feet with your hands so you feel a gentle stretch in your ankles. And then again, rock your hips around side to side. Little circles is fine, might feel really good. But the pressure of your hands on your feet is going to stretch out your feet a little bit. You can even draw your knees away from you. Inhale. And when you exhale, bring them closer. And keep going. Eventually, let go. Put the other ankle on top and do the same thing. Grab foot with each hand. Rock side to side. Notice your breath. Let your knees move back and forth, maybe make circles with them, whatever feels sweet. And then you're going to take your right knee in and stretch your left leg out on the floor in front of you. Have a breath in here and just holding onto your leg as lightly or as tightly as you want to. Breathe out. Inhale again, let your right knee move more towards your upper arm, more towards the right. And then when you exhale, see if you can lift your right foot so it hovers above the knee. Think like happy baby pose. Grab onto your right shin with your right hand. If you'd like to, you can grab onto the sole of the foot with your hand. And then exhale, drive your foot down by the floor. Drive your knee down by the floor. And perhaps you feel a bit of a tug in the inner right thigh. So inhale and exhale here. And then when you inhale, straighten your leg a little bit. Stop when the resistance is really obvious. And then let's bend the knee and straighten it a couple of times with the breath. So maybe draw your heel down towards your sit bone and then draw your toes down towards the floor. If holding onto your foot doesn't feel good, remember, hold on to the back of the leg, anywhere you want on the back of the leg. And just a couple more here. And now we're going to bring the right knee back to center. So you've got your knee and your ankle just about lined up with each other, and you've got your hip points just about lined up with each other. And reach your right foot up towards the ceiling. Now you can stay here and make circles with the ankle. If you would rather hold on to your leg, maybe reach beyond the knee towards the calf and lift your head and shoulders up off the floor. So the stretch is a little bit more vigorous. Feel free, but it's up to you. You don't have to have your leg straight. You don't have to have it bent. You can do whatever feels good. Back to your breath. And let's stretch the leg out on the floor and take the left knee in. And just give it a squeeze for the next breath. Perhaps noticing if your right leg is engaged. Again, it's correct to engage it. Some days it might feel better to. It's also okay if you let your foot and your hip relax. Now let's bring the attention back to the breath, back to the left leg. We're going to take the left knee a little bit more over to the left. So the hip is rotated out some. And then when you're ready to, lift your foot up, grab onto your ankle, or even the underside of your hip, so your hamstrings, or you can hold onto the sole of the foot. And when you're ready to, drive your knee down towards the floor and just notice what you feel. I sometimes like to keep my right hand on the leg. Sometimes when I'm really active there, the hand can remind me to push the leg down some more. You don't have to do that. Whatever you want is okay. But when you're ready, let's bend and unbend the left leg a couple of times. So straighten it some or a lot, bend it some or a lot with the breath. But because this is such a passive practice, sometimes you might like to dabble in a little bit of active by noticing the sort of end of the stretch where you can feel the tug, you can feel the stretch. And I'm not saying really engage like you're trying to strengthen the muscle, but notice the intensity of feeling, the increase in the intensity, and just play around with it every once in a while. And let's keep the left knee to center. Stretch it up towards the ceiling. You might just make circles with your ankle, letting the whole shape just be easeful. If you want, you can bring your hands to your leg. You can walk your hands up the leg. Whatever you'd like. We're going to be holding stretches for a little bit longer, a little bit more static eventually. But for now, we're just keeping things really soft and mobile. Go ahead and take both of your knees in. Let's go into a full happy baby. So separate your knees, reach in between the knees for your legs or your ankles or your feet, whatever you want to. And we'll be still at first. So drive the knees down by pulling onto the legs or the feet with the hands and breathe. And if you'd like to, you can straighten one leg, bend the other. Switch sides. And then from there, roll on to one side and up to sit. And after you sit up, put a little bit of space behind you and in front of you. So you're going to separate your knees a bit. And then you're going to let your knees drop over to one side and the opposite hip is going to lift up. And just see how this feels. Go ahead and lift your knees, inhale and exhale, drop your knees to the other. The opposite hip is going to come off of the floor. Yeah, come on back to center. Switch, exhale. Inhale to center. Exhale to switch. And then inhale to center and separate your feet a little bit wider. Drop your knees back to the other side. And up and exhale back. One more time each side. You might keep your chest lifted. And then when you're ready to, drop your knees over to the first side, but then lift your torso up and you're going to walk your hands over to your legs. So you've got one leg behind you and then there's another leg that you're facing. What we're going to focus on here is the leg that you can't see. So you want to make sure you feel really comfortable. There's no pain in your hip or your back, of course. Find your breath. You're going to inhale, and then when you exhale, that leg that you can't see, that you're not facing, you're going to take that foot up off of the floor. So what you end up doing is internally rotating that hip. So the foot lifts up, your hip rotates internally. Now just keep that foot up. You can move your torso and your arms wherever you want to. Notice your breath. You might even lift the foot a little bit higher. But then put it down. And let's go over to the other side. So switch your legs. Bring your hands and your torso wherever you want to. Some people will fold over the leg. Some people will stay lifted. Some people will face a little bit more forward, a little bit more out to the other side. Whatever feels best on your hip and back. And when you're ready to, lift your foot up. Sometimes it feels good to kind of lift and lower the foot a couple of times, really see how it feels. But again, the idea of lifting the foot is to make that thigh rotate inwardly. The pull that this has in some of the deep muscles in the hip is what we're looking for. So if you feel it only in your torso or in your spine, you might shift your torso a little bit so you can keep the attention in your leg. Perhaps you lift it a smidge more, and then place it back down. And let's come back to center. To face the front of the space, the front of the mat, and come onto hands and knees. When you get there, inhale, lift the sit bones a little towards the ceiling, and then feel as though you could take your upper body, like your chest, your rib cage, and press it down towards the floor. So you get the sensation of the shoulder blades probably moving in towards each other. Your neck might feel a little crunched. Relax a little. And then glide your shoulder blades down your back, lift your face, breathe in. And breathe out. Bring your back to neutral. Inhale here. Exhale, press your upper chest towards the floor. Inhale, glide the shoulder blades down the back, maybe straighten your arms, lift your face. Bring your back to neutral. One more time like that. Your lower back is positioned any way that feels really good for you. Let the chest drop towards the floor. Straighten your arms, shoulder blades move towards the waist, and you lift your face up. And then from here, relax your back, walk your hands further forward, lean into them, breathe in, and when you breathe out, lower down to your belly. After you get there, put the elbows to the floor and lift up into Sphinx pose. So you can let your legs relax. You might even bring the big toes to drop in towards each other and your heels to drop out to the side. If it feels better, you can have your heels drop in towards each other. I suspect you might prefer big toes in and heels drop out, but it's up to you. And when you're ready to, without a lot of vigor or action, just lift your chest up some. Glide your shoulder blades down. We're going to hold this for a little bit longer, about a half a minute or so. And I'm going to give you some quiet so that you can notice what you go through while you're here. When you're ready to, breathe in and breathe out, lower down to your belly. Make your way up to hands and knees, take your time. And from there, let your shoulders and shoulder blades shift up towards your ears and then move back towards your hips. Maybe inhale, they move up towards your ears. Exhale, back to your hips. Inhale up towards the ears. Exhale, back to the hips. Inhale, lift your sit bones, lift your sternum, lift your face. Exhale, cat pose. Tuck the tailbone only so far as feels good in your hip, drop your head. Inhale, sit bones up, sternum up, nose up. And exhale, round the back. Drop your head. One more time. Bring your back to neutral when you're ready. And then inhale, reach your right leg back in space. Exhale, take the right knee to the right wrist. Shimmy your left leg back for pigeon. You can take your right leg, your lower leg, and shift it over to the left. So the left leg stretches back, your right shin's in front of you. Take a breath in, maybe come up onto your fingertips. And when you breathe out, fold over your right leg. Again, this time in the practice, notice what you tell yourself. Notice the sense And even the sensations of anticipation or relief or whatever it is you're feeling. Walk the hands in. Not high, really easy. And then roll on to your right side. And let's stretch the left leg forward. But then we're going to cross the left hip over the right hip. So for cow face pose, you've got both of your knees really bent. And from here, inhale, lift your right arm up. Exhale, bend the elbow, grab onto it with your left hand. So you can stay here. If you do want to take your left hand behind you and clasp your fingers or hold onto your shirt, feel free. Breathe in, and when you breathe out, fold forward. And let's get the exhales really slow here. If it's too much for the arms, hands on the floor is great. Let's slow down your exhales. Inhale, sit up. Exhale, release the left fingertips to the floor behind you and your right forearm to your left leg and just gently twist over to the left. Driving the left hip down and back. One more breath. Maybe two. And let's come back to center. You might, if you want to, just turn around. So you can bring your hands over to the right, lift your hips from there, and make your way up to hands and knees. From hands and knees, shift your weight forward into your hands and lower down to your belly. Climb up onto the tips of the fingers, shoulder blades down the back. Inhale, lift up. Only as high as feels good. Allowing the chest to move forward, maybe lift through the face, lengthen through the back of the neck, and come on down. Plant the palms, shift up to hands and knees, and when you're ready, inhale to take your left leg up. Exhale, take the left knee to the left wrist. Lift the right knee to get the leg out of the way, and then shift your left lower leg forward and your right leg back. You can fold whenever you're ready to. If you want, take a breath in first, and then bring your forearms forward. And of course, this can be done on the back if any day it doesn't feel okay. You can pad up under your hips, put blankets anywhere you want to make your joints feel better. But prioritize the slowness of the exhales here. So again, you can notice the sensations, the story. But go back to your breath. Perhaps use the last couple breaths in the pose to let go a little more. To notice any part of your body that feels like it's still holding tension and release it. Walk the hands in to sit up. Lean into your left hip. Take your right leg around. And then again, cross the right leg over. And you can always, if it feels better, stretch the left leg forward. It doesn't have to be totally crossed. You can have your ankle on your thigh instead of your knee. Whatever suits you, whatever feels good in your body. And then when you're ready, you'll lift your left arm up. Exhale, grab onto that elbow with your right hand and shift the elbow over to the right some. You can stay here and fold. You can reach behind you with your right hand. See if it feels good, not forced, not strained, but good to hold on to your shirt or your fingers. And then from there, with a slight lift in your right sit bone, fold forward. You don't have to go crazy deep, doesn't have to look a certain way, but as soon as you feel sensation you can breathe with, you're probably in the right spot. Inhale to sit up. Exhale, release the right fingertips somewhere on the floor behind you or by your hip, left hand or forearm to the right leg. Inhale and then exhale just gently as you anchor down with your right leg. Twist your rib cage, rotate your rib cage over to the right. For 2 breaths, maybe 3. Then come on back to center. Unwind your legs. Lie down on the back. And if you'd like to, you can separate your feet. Drop both of your knees out to one side, to center, or to the other. You can do that once or twice more. And then stretch the legs long for a brief Shavasana. Hopefully the whole class felt like a bit of a Shavasana. You can spend this minute, we're not going to be here long, noticing the story, sensations, breath. Maybe playing with finding out which one it feels like happens first. Is it what you feel and then the story you tell yourself about it? Or does the story induce feeling sometimes? Play with it. But it might help to allow that sense of ease in your muscles. So notice where it feels like there's still tension. And then maybe with a slow exhale, you release it. So let's have a breath and stretch again. Stretch the hands away from the feet. And then take the knees in and roll onto your side, your right or left, really whatever you want. Resting your head and your shoulders when you get there. And then making your way up to sit, crossing the ankles. And then bring your palms together and rub them really vigorously together. really, really vigorously. A little bit faster. And then stop and place a hand to your heart and a hand to your belly. Soften your face. Notice what you feel. Imagine just by paying attention to it, you could slow your heart. You could convince your body systems to relax. You could show your whole body, your mind, that you're safe. And then if you'd like to, clasp the hands behind you, have a breath in, and then fold forward. And thank you very much.